Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new books by indie authors. Your hostess for today's show is Charlotte Canion. We do hope you enjoyed today's show.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Canion, and I'm an award-winning author and your host this evening. We had the privilege to talk to Gary Youngling, and he is just a wonderful author. His book is called Hartford Cities, and then I found that he's got Aussie voice. Gary, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Gary, we'd like to know a little bit about your background. So can you give us some family history and where you grew up? Because I know that our listeners like to know a little background on who we're interviewing.
Well, yeah, I had a very interesting background. I grew up as a military brat. When I was born in Washington, D.C. at Bowling Air Force Base, when it actually was an Air Force base. And my stepfather and mother, they married when I was 4 years old. And my very first move was to Germany for 3 years, and then to France for 2 years. And then to a SAC, where he was Air Force, and then to a SAC base, which is Strategic Air Command, in Limestone, Maine, which later became a very, very beautiful national preserve. And then from there, I moved down to, he was assigned to the Pentagon, and I moved to Falls Church, Virginia, where I did my education. Elementary completed, junior high school, joined the Fairfax County. Well, I joined the CIA as a lock and safe technician because there I was in Langley, in Virginia, in Fairfax, which is Langley, Vienna, Reston, all that. And eventually joined the Fairfax County Police Department and retired 25 years later as a decorated detective. Was in the United States Army Reserves for years. Did my last tour in Iraq in 2011 as a law enforcement professional. And I left, I bought in 2001, but I left Northern Virginia in 2014 to become a full-time resident here in Tucson. So for 13 years, I bounced back and forth because I had family in Tucson. And so that's pretty much it. And I now volunteer with the U.S. Forest Service and travel around the U.S. National Forest and monuments and memorials, just enjoying it. So.
Well, did you study journalism in school, or were you interested in writing back?
I was writing poetry and writing all through high school, and I've always been writing. My reports, of course, were always flamboyant. But no, my education is I received a Bachelor of Science in Sociology from George Mason University, and a Master of Arts in Sociology and Cultural Anthropology from George Mason University. So there, being a sociology major, worthless to some, very great for a person that loves to look at people and love airports and malls and cops. It was a great experience. But yeah, I learned my writing skills were honed pretty much there, even though it was more academically charged. But that's basically it.
Well, now you have all that interesting background with the CIA and the military and your police. Does that influence your writing?
Absolutely. It's the ability to understand people, to know pain, to know fear, to know danger, to understand, it's everything. And I wouldn't change anything, even though I've had harrowing moments in my life. I wouldn't change it for a bit because that's part of me. I don't claim any PTSD. I had a great social support system. Though I may have it, who cares? It's a different name for a different time. I incorporate it. It's part of me. It's ingrained in me. and I think it comes out of my writing. So yeah, it's I own it. So therefore, that's part of life.
Okay, Ozzy Boys was your first book, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell us, give us a little teaser about Ozzy Boy.
Well, it was kind of taken like anything else that I write. It's probably, I don't know, I don't want to put a percentage on it, but maybe 50% truth to a degree. But yeah, it was about my days at CIA based back in the 70s, which that was at the time. And so what I did was I based it on it basically about five personally chosen individuals that were young in their early 20s, very early, 21, 22, that had joined during the Nixon administration, handpicked by the National Security Advisor, which at the time, and trained to do covert and overt missions. And now that all of that's been declassified, I can talk about basically it. But we did things covertly and overtly, and it was about, and this is strictly fictional, putting the FBI and the CIA in the light against each other in order to solve a major problem with an insurgency, and therefore they had to work together because the CIA is limited to only international, as opposed to the FBI being only national. They were both working together in both fields, and it involved Macedonia. It involved a lot of countries, all of which I've actually stood in and been there. So I enjoyed writing that, and it was a murder mystery and kind of action packed, as opposed to Hartford City, which is a little bit more subdued.
Subdued. Okay. With your history, I'm sure you took some of your life experiences and, like you say, you stood in those places and then embellished on them and made the stories more interesting. Well, who were the Ozzy Boys? Were they brothers? Were they a group of friends?
Ozzy's Boys were five that were the block technicians within the CIA and the office of the CIA, and the director of security for CIA was the last name of Osborne, and he handpicked five of these individuals to train in different areas of the United States in specialties, both militarily and in other ways. And they were known throughout the internal operations of the agency in Langley as, we don't know who these people are, but they're Ozzy's boys. They must have done this, that, and the other. So, and there's a lot of truth to that. And so that's where the name came from, because a friend of mine who retired from the agency as a very high up said, "Oh, you were a member of Ozzy's Boys," and I said to myself, "That's a great title," and that was 20 years ago. But now I've incorporated that. So yeah.
So Ozzy's Boys wasn't it was just something that you came up with, like you say, a friend of mine just mentioned, a friend of yours mentioned Ozzy Boys, correct?
Yeah, we were an actual group, and we actually did exist. So
okay. So you were an Ozzy Boy.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Oh, so you were the part of that elite group. Well, that sounds intriguing. Well, Gary, we're going to take a break here in just a minute. But when we come back, I want our listeners, we want to dive into Hartford City because that sounds intriguing to me. And I know that almost everybody that reads loves mystery and intrigue. So let's let our commercial people do what they do.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Elle Ballard, and I'm the founder of Women of the World Network, a supportive entrepreneurial community of multinational women. I'm excited to announce we have second series launching for our anthology, Recipes for Body, Mind, and Soul, on April 7th. If you'd like to participate in any of our future anthologies or just check out our community, visit womenoftheworldnetwork.com.
Welcome to B4R.store, a bookstore for indie readers and indie authors, where indie authors can earn their fair share from the books you purchase. We have a wide variety of genres that you can select from. We also have ebooks and paperbacks. You can select authors by their first names, and we also have music. If you're interested in their city or country, we have that listed as well. If you are an author and would like to be on our bookstore, we have three options for you. There is a small minimal charge, or you can join our organization at authorsmarketing.org and learn how to better market and sell yourself. That is B4R.store, a bookstore for indie readers and indie authors.
Hi, I'm Charles Brakefield.
And I'm Rox Berkey.
Together, we write as Brakefield and Berkey.
Our techno thriller series is 12 books strong, with book 13, The Enigma Tracer, planned for 2022.
Techno thrillers are the cyber good guys versus today's darknet thugs.
We added our series prelude, Out of Poland, a 1939 historical novella, in 2021.
We also have 8 short stories available in family and women's contemporary genres, with more planned for 2022.
Please visit our website, enigmaseries.com, to learn more about why we say technology is today's weapon of choice. Thank you.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new books by indie authors. Your hostess for today's show is Charlotte Canion. We do hope you enjoyed today's show.
Was that okay?
Well, this is Charlotte Canion, and we are speaking with Gary Youngling, and he is the outstanding author of Aussie Boys in Hartford City. Now, we talked a little bit about your Aussie boy, and you admitted you were an Aussie boy. So does any of it bleed over into your Hartford City, or is it totally a different direction?
My character was Time McCarthy in Ozzy's Boys, totally different character, however, based on my life. But when I had joined the police department in Fairfax County several years later, and during that particular period of time, and going through my career with the Fairfax County Police Department, I was assigned to DEA for 3 years. I was an undercover officer. I was a part of the PCP task force in Washington, D.C. I was, just all these things. And then I came back, and as I was about to retire, I took off wanting to go to the Rocky Mountains. And driving from Northern Virginia, DC area to the Rocky Mountains, you've got to cross through Pennsylvania, the turnpike and all this. And this is true. All this is true. I ran into a snowstorm that was just horrific. It was terrible. I couldn't see anything. I'd gotten off the Pennsylvania turnpike. I was on I-70 and 69. Anyway, I found myself finally, by the grace of God, getting off that turnpike about 2 or 3 in the morning. And all I could see was white and snow and black. I couldn't even tell where I was. So I got off, and next thing you know, I'm riding into, and I fall into this little town in Indiana as the sun was coming up, crisscross train tracks, beautiful sunrise, crisp snow, 10 degrees, whatever. And as I crossed into this little town, it was like I described it in my book. It was a Rockwell incident. And I said, well, okay, I'm going to have to stay here and reconnoiter because I was in the middle of a blizzard, and come to find out it was one of the big blizzards in Indiana that happened, and I got stuck halfway. So I was enamored by this town. I fell in love with the. Now you got to remember, I'm writing about this town as it occurred to me in 1983, not 2022. So everything about this town is true, but it's true back in 1993, not 2022. So there's been quite a few years, 30 years of transition. So that was my disclaimer in the book. All of this is true, except that's been 30 years ago, but I fell in love with it. It was a great town. It had some really juicy characters that I just loved. And I took notes as a writer. I didn't know I was going to write this book, but I knew I was going to write this book. I just didn't know when. I didn't know it'd be 30 years later. But anyway, I was so enamored by these characters that which are all pretty much true, just different names. That I incorporated that being a police detective trying to go to the Rocky Mountains. And what happens in the town was I get, because every small town knows everything about you, every new comer. So they knew I was a detective, they knew I was a cop, and the next thing you know, there is a series, there's a murder, there's disappearances, and I get kind of sucked into, can you help us out? And that's how it all starts. And can you help us out on this particular murder? But then again, we find that there are two missing young adult girls from a junior high school that happened like years earlier. And it looked like it was going to be the same person may have done that. And I just enjoyed it. It was great. It's a great little town. And I really, writing is like driving with your headlights at night. You don't know sometimes where you're going to go until you don't ever want to override your lights. And I had to tell you, I wasn't sure exactly where this was going to go, but I just enjoyed the storyline and fell into it. And I really had fun with this. This wasn't as shoot 'em up and action as Ozzy's Boys. So it captured the attention and the positive reactions of a different group of readers. And so I enjoyed that. So I enjoyed Ozzy's Boys, and I certainly enjoyed Hartford City. And the interesting thing was I just participated in the Tucson Festival of Books, and I had a young man and his family who now are at the University of Arizona step in and say, wait a minute, this is Hartford City. I said, no, it's not Connecticut. He says, I know, it's my hometown. And he loved it. And I'm getting all kinds of accolades from now people in Hartford City that have been Facebooked and everything else about the book. So I thought that was really nice. So
It is intriguing. Yeah, it is intriguing. Now, you said in it that and so it's based more on fact than fiction. And
yeah,
you did.
the fact is the description of the town and its characters. The fiction is the description of the murder and the two missing students. But that's where it all leads, and that's where it went. And but I loved writing about this town. It was great.
So that's where your fantasy set in, and your story writing as you embellish. Now, I know that we all use characters that we meet in life, and obviously you used people that you met there, in Hartford Place. Is there any one character that stands out?
Actually, there were several. One character that stands out was a character I introduced into the Hartford City. That I came from another small town. It was not related to Hartford City, but I had to put him in there. And the other character was a true character, and he was a. I found this almost impossible, but he was and he's probably long dead now. But he was a glass maker, and he was one of the few reconstructionists from the Middle Eastern, from the medieval periods of glass in Europe. And he would be called to go to all of these churches in Europe to fix their stained glass from back in the 17th and 15th century. And he was telling me, and he was one of the few that I met him there. He was making his glass and was telling me, you know, there's only one way that I can get this color red, and I have to use human blood. I've used every kind of blood in the world, but human blood was used to make this color. And I have to bribe the people in the hospital to give me their tainted blood so I can make these certain colors. And because of Notre Dame being destroyed, he and all of these glass makers from around the world, which are very few now, very few, to reconstruct this actual shade of red. I don't even want to go there. But anyway, I put that in the book. I thought it was amazing.
That is intriguing. Oh my gosh, they used human blood. Well, with that, we're going to hang on a hook here and let our sponsors give us a little commercial. Each and every one of us has a mission in life. Mine is to help people laugh through the good times and the bad. My name is Charlotte Canion, and I'm an author, a speaker, and a host on Indie Beacon Radio. If you need me to speak at an event or autograph my book, you can contact me at charlotte@charlottecanion.com. Thank you, and have a blessed day.
Authors Marketing International, a membership-based organization where members learn how to better market and sell themselves. Join us at authorsmarketing.org. Hi, this is Beyond Bourgeois. I am the founder and director of the B4 Art Bookstore. We are in our warehouse, and as you can see behind me are some of the books that we have for the short story contest that we run annually. It begins March 1st and runs through July 31st. Of course, if you win, you get copies of the books you're published in, the anthologies, and they go out to libraries and schools. So a great way to discover new readers. Check it out, b4r.store, and good luck. Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new books by indie authors. Your hostess for today's show is Charlotte Canion. We do hope you enjoyed today's show.
This is Charlotte Canion, and we've had a riveting talk with Gary Youngling, and he's told us that he weaves his CIA and his police force and his army into his two books. So, Gary, if there's, say one line from your Hartford cities that you'd like to share, that might be intriguing to our listeners.
As far as one particular line, Charlotte, I'm sorry.
One particular line that might stand out.
I actually used the ground penetrating radar for finding out some of the remnants of some of the bodies, and I thought that was quite interesting, and I think they would enjoy that. Other than that, the fact that Hartford City is in the Midwest. It's in Indiana, and it's a real town. It's a very, very interesting place. You know, years ago when I used to jog, I jogged for like I thought it was like 15 miles, and it didn't seem like anything because it was so flat. I was so not used to flat land, and it's a beautiful little town. So, yeah, that I think they would enjoy that. I think they would enjoy the
Well, that's
gentle.
intriguing. I didn't realize they had, that kind of equipment. Well, Gary, we're about to come to the end of the show. So would you mind telling people, because I'm sure you have book signings, coming up, and remind people how they can reach you and how they can purchase your books?
Well, you can. I am GS. That's Gary S. But it's GS Youngling at Amazon.com. It's Gary Youngling at Yahoo.com. GS Youngling at Yahoo.com. And my Twitter is at G Youngling, YOUNGLING. And like I say, Barnes and Noble, Targets, Walmart, all of them. But Amazon is the best because you can get it quickly, and they seem to have plenty in stock. So that's GS Youngling at Amazon.com. Now, I wish I could tell you whether there was a period after each of them or not, but I'm not sure.
Well, I think when you kind of put it in, it will come up. Well, Gary,
Yeah,
I love to
Ozzy's
ask.
boy. Ozzy,
Yeah.
OZZI apostrophe S. OZZI apostrophe S. Okay.
Yeah, well, the good thing is we've been seeing that online, so I'm glad that you have your books there behind you. But
Good.
one other thing I like to ask my interviewees is, if you had to give advice to a new writer, what would you tell them in, just a sentence or two?
Write what you know, what you believe, and when you come to a stump in the road, keep writing, no matter what. You can always go back and edit, no matter what.
Well, that's good enough advice. Yeah, just get it on paper and then get it right.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
was what one of my professors told me. Get it down on paper and then you can get it right. Well, Gary, this has been a pleasure. Your books sound intriguing. I think I'd like to go to Hartford City one of these days and, just maybe feel a little of the charisma that you were sharing with us. I'm Charlotte Canion. We've been interviewing Gary Youngling. And if you haven't read his book, you need to check out Ozzy's Boys and Hartford City. And remember, a rose is like a book. You can't know its beauty until you look at it. And a book is like a rose. You won't know its full beauty until you open it. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching the Indie Beacon Show, produced by B. Allen Bourgeois for the Authors Marketing International LLC. Copyright 2022. Voiceover by B. Allen Bourgeois. If you would like to be a sponsor of the show, please contact us at authorsmarketing@outlook.com. If you would like to be on this show, it is free to authors. Simply fill out the form at indiebeacon.com. The music is provided by Happy Follows. The music is entitled